When our little girl was born, we got a Subaru. It's where she said her first word.
No.
Saw her first day of school.
Bye-bye.
Made a best friend forever.
Oh my God.
The back seat of my Subaru is where she grew up.
What?
The 2015 Subaru Forester.
What?
Built to be there for your family. Love, it's what makes a Subaru a Subaru.
University Subaru.
The wise choice.
Good morning and welcome to Radio Friends on Wednesday, September the 30th. And we have a very, very intelligent man with us today. Jack Schultz, MU Life Science Center. Good to have you here,
Good
Jack.
to see you again, Paul.
You're always a pleasure to have
Thank
on.
you.
And when you came in today, you said, let's talk about wine.
Right.
All right. Well, yesterday, I got to ask you one question.
Sure,
Okay.
sure.
Yesterday, we had Bill Wickersham on, and we were talking about UFOs, and when you came in, I said, I just asked you a question off the top of your head. I said, do you think we're alone, or do you think there's other life out there?
Oh, I think it's inescapable that there's somebody else out there.
You do?
Yeah, I don't know what they look like, of course.
But why? Why do you think?
Well, because there are the fraction of planets that have the conditions that we do here might be small, but there are so many planets
Billions.
that the probability is almost one that something similar to what happened on this planet has happened elsewhere. I mean,
Yeah. So
it's almost a certainty.
it could be people that are far in advance of us or way behind
Or
us.
they might not be people. They might be octopi. Or, I mean, it doesn't have to look like us or actually work like us to be.
Yeah, but when you
alive.
look out, especially in the summertime, and I go outside after dark and I look up and it's a clear night and you see the Milky Way and you see those billions of stars out there, it's really hard to believe that we are the only one.
I find it hard to believe, too. And then you can add to that the possibility that what we would call living things could live in environments really different from ours. I mean, we depend on water, liquid water as we know it, but you could build life forms based on liquid methane or other chemistries. And so that just increases the possibilities, several times again.
Yeah,
So, sure.
okay.
And by the way, I've been watching a lot of Star Trek Next Generation lately.
Yeah?
So I'm really thinking about this a lot. The problem, though, is they make all the aliens look like humans, which is...
And they all speak English,
And
too.
they all speak
They all speak English. I noticed that. Now, I haven't watched Next Generation, but I'm a Star Trek fan.
Are you?
For 3 years, the original Star Trek with Mr. Spock and Captain Kirk. But no matter where they land, they all speak English.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. Even the who are the bad ones? The Klingons.
Klingons, yes, right. Yeah.
All right. Hey, we're getting off subject here, but you wanted to talk about wine.
Sure, and the reason for that is that Missouri is famous in the history of wine on our planet.
Missouri?
That's right. Missouri at one point saved the planet from losing all of its wine production.
You're kidding.
No.
How does this fit into the Life Science Center?
Well, we do research on the cause of this problem, so I'll get back to that in a minute.
Okay.
About 1850, 1860s, the U.S. wine producers, grape growers, sent some vines over to France, and this normal trade and so forth. And those vines carried an insect with them called phylloxera. Phylloxera feeds on the leaves and roots of grapevines. And it's deadly to the species of grape that we make wine with. That's called Vitis vinifera. It's the wine grape species, okay? And it proceeded to begin to wipe out vineyards all over France. I mean, France was looking at a huge economic disaster because of the loss of their vineyards. And it took maybe 20, 30 years for people to figure out what was going on. It took a long time to figure out it was an insect because it was on the roots in the ground and they couldn't figure it out. But eventually, the case was broken by a Missouri entomologist, an insect guy, named Charles V. Riley, who thought, these vines came from America. We have insects that kind of do that kind of thing. Send me some roots. They sent him some roots. He looked at the roots and he said, oh, yeah, you've got this phylloxera thing that we have here in the U.S. Well, great. So they know what the problem is. What do you do about it? Well, Riley lived in Missouri. He was a Missouri entomologist. In fact, many things in our entomology department here are named for him. We have the C.V. Riley Annual Lecture and the C.V. Riley Collection, all that sort of stuff. So he was a Missouri entomologist. He noticed that the grapevines that just grow naturally here in Missouri didn't seem to be bothered by this insect. And he concluded that probably because they've been here together for so long, some of the vines are immune to this thing. So he did a little more research. He teamed up with some research teams in France. And to make a long story short, we started shipping Missouri grapevine roots, just the bottom half of the plant, to France. And they graft the wine-producing vine onto roots from Missouri. The vine is then protected against this pest.
Oh, my goodness.
And almost everywhere in the world now, anywhere wine is produced from grapes grown on the French wine top, grafted to Missouri bottoms.
Anywhere in the world?
That's right, because it's the only way to protect plants against this pest. Now, over the years, I mean, Missouri is no longer actually shipping those rootstocks everywhere.
Right.
Now they're bred and they're produced all around the world.
But all of the grapes for wines growing anywhere in the world, the roots originally came from Missouri.
That's right.
Was it the university here?
Not so much. At the time, there was I think, an Academy of Sciences in St. Louis, but Riley actually worked there quite a lot. He was on campus a lot.
So when you take a sip of wine, if you take a sip of wine tonight, or if you're traveling to Europe or you're traveling to Asia, think back to Missouri. The only reason that you're able to take that sip of wine is because of research that was done here in Missouri.
Right. That's right.
And the roots that were growing that wine came from here.
That's right. Now, we're doing research on this now because, as things often happen, that was a serious economic problem. People found, a direct solution for it, more or less, okay? But they didn't really study how it works. So it turns out more than 100 years later, we still don't understand how this insect lives on grapevines and what it does there. And it's a little peculiar because it creates what we call a gall. It creates what we call a gall, which is like an organ that grows on the plant that should never have grown there. People here
like a pimple.
Yeah, sort of. But some of them are big, like the size of a banana. I mean, you'll find them here on your oak trees in the backyard, goldenrod. Nobody knows how they do that. So we're using the phylloxera grape system as a way to understand which genes are involved in making the galls and which genes a vine would have to have.
And all this work is going on at the MU Life Science Center.
That's right.
Yeah, it's amazing. Jack Schultz, you really are one of the most interesting people that I know.
Thanks so
you can
much.
Talk about anything.
Well, you don't do badly yourself.
I bluff it. You know what you're talking about. If people want more information, where do they go?
Oh, they can look up the Christopher S. Bond Life Sciences Center online. We're all over.
All right. Jack Schultz, thank you. Please come back again.
I will. It's a pleasure.
All right. Our program directed by Travis McMillen, Reynolds Journalism Institute, audio Pat Akers, KBIA, our flow director, Kevin Casson, and our assistant producer and guest coordinator, Uncle James Mauser. Tomorrow, the food bank for Central and Northeast Missouri. Drop me an email, pepperp@missouri.edu.